Hey there, good morning on this Tuesday, January 14th. Good to be with you here on News 6 Plus and clickorlando.com. This is Breakfast with Bridgett. I'm Bridgett Ellison and hope you're getting off to a good start this morning. We're going to get you ready to get out the door, and we have a few weather changes out there. We're also talking about, the new year. It was Lunar New Year. I heard a lot of fireworks, and we are talking about those resolutions for your new year and how much it matters to put your goals in mind and stick to those, whether it's your fitness goals or financial goals or personal goals. So today we're talking to a professional about your money. So that's what we're going to get to in a little bit. But we're going to get over to the Pinpoint Weather Center first to talk about some other numbers with your forecast. So here's Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos. Good morning.
Good morning. It was interesting because, we're always tucked into the weather office during the show. So you see the conditions, but you're not out in the conditions. So I ran out real quick to kind of just get a gauge, make sure that everything that is correlating on the maps is what's being felt outside.
Yeah.
And the way I would describe the morning this morning, it's almost kind of raw. It's a little cold. It's windy. It's damp. It's not the greatest. So if the kids are having to head out to the bus stop this morning, making sure that they have like a windbreaker that kind of wicks off some of the moisture.
Okay.
It's kind of misty out there. But then into the afternoon, after a few hours, we got to get some of that cloud cover out of here, bring in the cool air, and that will settle into a really nice cool stretch for the rest of the week.
It's not bitter. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
Okay.
I lived in Oregon for about almost 3 years, and it's that very Pacific Northwest. Got the low cloud cover. It's kind of cold. You need some of those those thin kind of rain jacket windbreakers just because it's kind of the combination of it. So, and the reason for it, we've got a cold front, and that cold front is going to be bringing us some nicer weather for the rest of the week. So we just got to get through some of the more kind of weather forecasts the next few hours. So let's look here. Satellite and radar composite. Here comes that next cold front. Not producing a lot of rain. It's almost misty. So it's very, very hard to get the radar to pick up any of it. So right now you don't see a lot of the rain, but notice the blue. It's slowly starting to make its way further south into central Florida. So with that being said, clouds will linger for a few hours today. It will be a cooler day. Then into the afternoon, we are looking at temperatures staying in the 60s, low 60s today throughout the rest of the week. Nights will be significantly colder starting tonight and into early tomorrow morning. We'll be down into those 30s and 40s. And then we're going to be warming things up. We'll have a little warm bubble, right? A nice little warm hug as we head into Saturday and Sunday. We'll be into those mid 70s before another cold front comes through. And I'll show you that long range modeling in just a few seconds. But right now, clouds and rain forecast showing a lot of that cloud cover in place, that breeze coming in out of the north. But notice I stopped the clock around lunchtime or so. Areas north of Seminole County will already be nice clear skies. Further south, the clouds will linger into more the second half of the day. By about 2-3 o'clock, most of us should be clearing out of that cloud cover, and then temperatures will start to drop. So hour by hour forecast for today, 63 will be your high. Again, we will see those colder conditions later on tonight, dipping down into Orlando in the mid 40s, although we could have a few upper 30s sprinkled in for areas north and west of I-4, which does include areas of some patchy frost. So this map here shows your temperature anomalies. So the blues and the purples indicate cooler than normal, where the reds and the oranges show warmer than normal. Notice this is until Thursday. We're going to be under this nice little cool pocket. And then we're going to have a little bit of a warming trend kind of kick into high gear Saturday and Sunday. But then notice, look at this big old blast of cold air once again into the middle part of the next work week. How much of that cold blast will we see? We'll have to wait and see kind of as we iron out those details past the 10-day mark here. But looking at the temperature outlook that's put out by the Climate Prediction Center, you could see at least until the end of January, we are still going to be in the blue, not as cold as it has been the last couple of weeks, but still running below that average of 71 degrees. So we will stay very chilly throughout the rest of the week, warming up slightly Saturday and Sunday. And there you go. There's another cold front right around the corner early next week, Bridgett.
All right. Well, it's not too bad now. I mean, I think that we got through that really big cold snap and that.
Yes.
Now this seems like, okay, it's not too bad.
Yeah, you're like, oh, 60s, we could do that as long as it's not like 50s. So everything's relative, isn't it?
It is. All right. We won't complain. Thank you, Candace.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay, bye. All right, so we want to check in with Trooper Steve and get you ready for those roads too. And how's it been out there this morning? I know we started out a little damp.
We did, and there are several spotty crashes out there. We're getting a quick slowdown out there, so please be careful. This is going to be off of 408 right now, westbound. We're seeing heavy delays this morning. Look at that, guys. Bumper to bumper. And we're moving at maybe 5-10 mile an hour. And that's over right around the Goldenrod area, backed up past 417. So no crash out there. It's just an odd delay, and that's going to let us know, hey, we're off to probably a pretty rough start in the morning. Like Bridgett had mentioned, guys, if you're watching us this morning with your breakfast, hanging out, getting ready to leave the house, it is kind of slick out there. The roadway's going to dry up, like Chief kind of explained to us, but you just need to make sure you're paying attention because there are some spotty places still out there from that overnight rain. Right now, Avalon Park over at Crown Hill Boulevard, I do have a crash out there, so just be careful because of the pedestrians and all the school traffic taking place. This area gets really, really busy. And then down here, one of the worst places we could have a crash, Pleasant Hill Road over at Orange Blossom Trail / John Young. Northbound lanes heavily impacted by this morning, and we are backed up almost towards Poinciana. So no good news comes out of that. DOT cam I-4 westbound right now over in Seminole, showing some minor delays out there, but we have cleaned up 27 and Independence, and our drive times not too bad. 35 minutes, Bridgett, this morning from Champions Gate
Okay.
to 408.
Oh,
So
that's
really
bad.
not a bad when it comes from the Champions Gate area, but like you said, everyone just needs to be careful. We haven't had much rain in a while, so those fluids kind of up on the roadway, kind of paying attention for our motorcyclists and stuff this morning. So that's why Trooper Steve on patrol today is going to be talking about increasing your following distance. I say that a lot on air in the morning, but what does that mean? What's the safe distance to be traveling? And we're going to talk about that at 10 o'clock today at clickorlando.com.
That's great. And there's technology now that really helps people with that. But even when that technology kicks in, I mean, it's still not foolproof. So we still
Right,
have to be
and
alert.
you want to know too, just for your own kind of grace on, hey, when I'm cruising out here, even in a residential neighborhood, what
Hmm.
should I be this close to the car in front of me? What is the proper reaction time? And I always tell people when you come to a stop, I'll give you a little tease on what I'll talk about. You
Okay.
always want to make sure that you can see the tires of the vehicle, the rear tires of the vehicle in front of you,
Oh,
and that gives you a little bit of safe space just in case you get bumped or if you need to get out of there. So that we're going to talk about that today.
good deal. I would be curious to know too about driving at night because I feel like
Hmm.
depth perception of those headlights
Yep.
that are oncoming, it's really hard to tell sometimes.
Absolutely, and there's a bunch of tests and stuff that take place, and I feel that even sometimes, even as I've gotten a little older. So we'll talk about that stuff on Trooper Steve on patrol today.
All right, great. Thank you so much. We'll see you then.
Yep, see ya.
All right. We want to cover some local news for you. Unfortunately, a really sad story this morning. An 8-year-old boy was mauled to death by some dogs, and this happened in a neighborhood. This was in Berries Ridge, north of DeLand. And this young victim, his family tried to get the dogs off of him. Those dogs are now in with Volusia County Animal Services in quarantine. This happened on Arabesque Drive last night, and witnesses rushed in to help. They did CPR until first responders could get there, but he died from his injury. So this is just devastating for this neighborhood and this family. So we're continuing to follow that. Angie Casada is there in the neighborhood this morning, and we'll continue to learn more about the victim and just how something like this happened. But continue to stay here and with clickorlando.com for more updates on that horrible story. Also this morning, the discussion about school resource officers and getting the finances together to make that happen. Today, school leaders in Orange County will talk about negotiations. They're continuing to negotiate with 5 different local police departments across the area, different cities. So they're trying to come to a deal to keep the officers in dozens of schools. And as News 6's Mark Lehman explains, that big holdup is the funding for this.
What are your concerns if an agreement isn't reached?
I think they must reach an agreement. It's no doubt. We got to have protection for our kids.
Torrance Rhodes is a parent of 2 students at Ocoee Middle. For now, this school and nearby Ocoee Elementary have resource officers on campus, but that could change in the fall.
And we just can't pick ordinary citizens to protect our children. I think that's a horrible idea.
Ocoee is one of 5 police departments that haven't been able to reach a financial agreement with the Orange County School District on SROs. 30 schools would be impacted in Apopka, Ocoee, Windermere, Winter Garden, and Winter Park.
Is anybody else a little sick at their stomach that we have to have this conversation?
During a workshop last month, the school board pushed for the district to continue negotiations today. OCPS says it's offered a 3-year plan on increasing salaries starting at $72,000 and rising to $75,000. Those 5 cities, however, say that's not enough, forcing the district to explore guardians who are limited in how they're allowed to intervene in situations. Rhodes says everything should be done to keep SROs in schools.
It shouldn't even be a question. It shouldn't be negotiated. Our children's safety cannot be negotiated.
And so we'll be following that story and we'll keep you updated on what happens. And speaking of updates, the New Glenn rocket launch. We're still waiting a little bit longer for that maiden launch of Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket. The company says it'll be Thursday at the earliest before they try again to get this big rocket off the ground at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It was supposed to happen yesterday. Then they possibly looked at a window for early this morning. Then they called that off. But apparently Blue Origin says an ice buildup on one of the rocket's power units forced that scrub on yesterday morning. So they're continuing to work out all the questions and kinks. And of course, when it happens, we will have it for you here live. Again, they're trying for Thursday again on the New Glenn rocket. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back to talk to a financial expert about your money goals in the new year. Welcome back. You know, we talked about the new year and resolutions, and we talked about fitness goals last time, but today we're talking about your money. And joining us this morning, Eric Hutter, financial professional and president of Osprey Retirement Solutions, talking about getting financially fit. Good morning.
Amen. Good morning, Bridgett.
Yeah, good to have you with us again. I know we've talked about various topics before, and so this time of year, people think about ways to really, make the most of the year. And so where's a good place to begin when we start thinking about our financial goals, our money?
Great question. And I think I pulled a survey from Fidelity. So they do an analysis of people's opinions and resolutions. And the number one goal is to save more money for 2025 and pay down debt. Okay, great. That sounds wonderful. How do we do that, right? Mm-hmm. So if we have debt, the question is, are we paying interest to pay down that debt, meaning credit cards? If we are, what can we do to make that situation better or easier to pay down? So I think this, again, is common sense, but I believe that a lot of people might overlook the fact that if they have decent to good credit scores, which would be in the range of 670 or above, you can apply for a no interest or introductory no interest credit card. And that will then allow you to transfer interest balances to a no interest credit card and then set yourself a goal to pay that down over the next 12 to 18 months. You have to know to save more on the other side. Well, again, common sense. What's your budget? Do you know your budget? I speak to a lot of people that are actually getting closer to retirement, and you'd be surprised how often they don't know their budget. So how do we figure out what our budget is? Well, we can look at credit card statements to see what we've been spending the last couple months.
Quick
Some
question,
people like
Eric.
to do spreadsheets.
With transferring to a no interest credit card, people will say you can't pay credit with credit. So how do you set that up if you do need to roll over some credit card debt to a credit card that's no interest so that you can try to pay that down strategically? Do you call the company where you have the debt and say, I need to transfer this to this new card? Or do you try to negotiate with them to get a new card with no interest and roll it into with the same company?
Right. And that's a possibility. I mean, I think there's just a lot of
people don't know where to
introductory
begin.
offers. Yeah. I mean, I'd start with the local banks. I mean, Chase, you look at the big banks, the Chase, the Capital One have a lot of great credit card. I see a lot of zero interest introductory credit cards there.
But say you have $5,000 that you haven't paid off on another card that has high interest. You're saying you
Right.
could say that one's with, I don't know, MasterCard. Can I call MasterCard and say,
Right.
hey, I have a new credit card over here at Chase, 0 interest. I need to transfer this? Or how do you do
Oh,
that?
just write a check. They're going to give
Okay.
you a check and you're going to pay a couple percent to do a check transfer, but the new credit card company will give you checks. You can just
Okay.
write a check, transfer the balance. So there is a transfer cost to that,
Okay.
but the average credit card interest rates right now are still over 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the Fed started cutting rates, unfortunately, it's not going to change much on what the interest rates that these credit card companies can charge us. So we have to be very vigilant with that. And the hesitation, what I'm saying is that you're gonna be applying for another credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Again, understand what your credit score is, so you're not going to get denied. Because what I don't want on the other side is you're applying for a couple of these 0 interest rate credit cards, but your credit score doesn't really allow you to get approved for that, and now you're just getting unnecessary inquiries on your credit report, which isn't going to
Right.
help your credit score.
Okay. Okay. So you have to make sure you're qualified and not taking a bunch of hits on inquiries, and
Exactly.
and also having the discipline not to run up those cards. This is strictly for a strategy to pay down. So that goes into savings. How can we buckle in on savings and then maximize the earnings on those savings, even if it's just a little bit of savings that you can manage?
Yeah, there's still, even though rates are coming down, there's still a lot of banks, if you inquire. I mean, they're happy to sit you in a no interest bearing account, but a lot of the banks do have higher yielding money market accounts they can transfer your balances into. But unfortunately, it's kind of left to the consumer's responsibility to make those calls, because they're not going to solicit you for
Mm-hmm.
paying you more interest at the bank level.
So shop around with those for the best savings interest rates. And what about the
Absolutely.
debate between sort of the brick and mortar bank, the online bank, the credit union? Can you kind of talk about some of those differences?
Yeah, credit unions are great. They seem to be more family friendly to work with. The big brick and mortar banks just seem like you're another name and number to them. Some of the online banks are competing for your business. Although you're having to do things more virtual and electronically with money transfers, there's some very good ones out there that I have found. Capital One is one that is wonderful people to work with. Wonderful.
Hmm. When you talk about, we talked about budgets and sort of figuring out your budget, and you said it doesn't really matter the age group we talk about. Lots of folks sort of don't know where to begin to figure out the budget. So, what are some best practices in getting a better idea on what you're spending? And, should we use technology like maybe some of the apps that help us figure that out? Or what do you, are there some
There are, I
calculators?
mean, yeah, the millennials and the Gen Zs probably have more tech savvy than I do, because they've grown up with technology, and there's some very good apps for budgeting. I don't have a specific one I'd recommend, but I think with budgeting, like we're looking into the new year, I was just reviewing this thought myself, are there some new purchases or new things you have to do on the horizon that you have to budget for? Do you have a child that's getting ready for college? So you have a college
Braces.
cost. Is there, right? Braces. Oh my gosh. Do you need a new car?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you need a new roof on your house?
Right.
Or, what's concerning all of us in Florida, if we own a home, what's the cost of our insurance is going to be on the next renewal notice, right? We
Right.
almost have to budget in advance of something we don't even know what it's going to be, but just know it's going to be more, and be prepared for that unfortunate increase in your premiums.
Hmm. I've talked to Jill Schlesinger before about the spending trends, and how it seems like people are spending, like the trends to spend doesn't seem to be on the downturn. But like you said, the interest rates still haven't seen like major changes just yet. So when it comes to people sort of figuring out what they can afford, you talked about that pressure to buy a house, maybe for first time home buyers, or maybe people who sold their house and haven't gotten another one yet. How can you really figure out if that's the right move maybe this year for you to buy a property, and the true cost of ownership, like you said, depending on where you are, California, Florida, lots of property insurance rates are challenging, and availability is challenging. So what is the calculation for figuring out if you should make a major move like buying a home or making those big purchases?
If this is your first time home purchase, honestly, I think you have to speak to your elders, people that have already been there and done that, and can enlighten their younger generations as to what does it look like? Because, it didn't used to be this problem. You're looking at the mortgage and can I afford the mortgage? And by the way, interest rates have not come down too much on mortgages, as we're still hoping will come down further, but they're hovering around 7%. So you're not only looking at your income to say, can I buy this home and afford this mortgage, but what's the cushion, right? If things go up, homeowners insurance and all these extra taxes are going up, right? So you're gonna have to create a larger cushion in reserve for the anticipation of higher costs if you're going to step into buying a home. And I really find it a young person that if they're not getting counseled by somebody that's already gone through this, there's a lot of family members that have enough experience buying their first, second, third home that they can counsel their younger family members. I just think you got to look for help first, because it is a scary proposition today.
And like we talk about calculators, sometimes these calculators
Right.
will, or even pre-approvals, sometimes you get pre-approved for
Right.
amounts that may be way above board of what realistically you could manage because, like you said, things come up. Those different taxes and insurances fluctuate, as well as depending on how you finance it, the payments may fluctuate. And so you can really get into some pinches if there's something big like a roof comes up or a hurricane or different things like that. What is it that you advise people that are sort of on that cusp of retiring and people who are also looking at their healthcare options as they're getting toward those different Medicare plans and
Yeah.
all those things to manage? Because a lot of times you may be thinking Social Security and Medicare, but then you still need some extra pad to make that work for your different health needs
Right.
and your budget
Yeah,
needs.
long-term care. I mean, I think if we do a survey, if any of us have parents that are in their 80s or late 70s, we're experiencing some level of they need some extra care. I've gone through this with several family members, losing family members, helping with caregiving or helping oversee the financial end of what caregiving costs. And it's expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it might start off where it's manageable financially, but you're getting into the thousands of dollars even to be at home with home care. So the family members need to understand what the options are and how the parents or the elderly family members want to be, how they would like to see their care given.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different for families, but it's a touchy subject that needs to be discussed sooner than later, because I'm finding as our parents and grandparents get older, they get less cooperative and more difficult to deal with because of the aging process. So it's a reality, but I think it's a great thought, Bridgett, that all families need to discuss.
Mm-hmm. And so you can help people map that out, right? So
love doing that. Yeah, that's part of what we do for people. Amen.
Yeah. How do we get in touch with you? If people have personal questions and things they would like to talk to you about with their own personal
My
plan.
website is ospreyretirement.com, like the bird, ospreyretirement.com, or they can call me at 561-762-7560.
So don't panic, just plan, right?
Just plan. Yep.
All right.
Take a deep breath and we'll get through it together.
All right. Well, Happy New Year. Thanks, Eric.
Happy New Year to you. Thanks, Bridgett.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Speaking of your money, it costs to park around here, and we are covering some different things tomorrow with beach parking, and we'll tell you more about some of those different changes. Also, coming up soon, we'll be hitting the road to Ormond Beach, so we want to hear from you. clickorlando.com/hitstheroad. We want to know about the stories we should be covering in Ormond Beach and any problems or issues that need to be things that needs to be addressed, and we can help you get results on. So let us know now about your stories for Ormond Beach, and then we're going to be live in Ormond Beach with our newscasts coming up very soon. So look for that update as we move ahead. So we're going to let you go and get ready for your day. Hope you have a great one. We'll see you again at noon. Take care.